Please do not message or call, as the following program is a rerun of a previous live show. Any announcements made during the repeat may now not be applicable.
Any health advice given, whether general, diet, physical or spiritual, is general only and must be verified by your doctor. If you need medical advice, please consult a doctor.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the latest edition of the Health and Fitness Show. I'm your host Suliman Rafiq, and we are pre-recording today's show, and I'm delighted to say we're joined by not one but two expert guests who'll be talking to us specifically about diabetic eye screening. I know quite recently we were joined by the fantastic Dr. Ali Khan, who was talking to us all about diabetes, and this is a really important topic to discuss and understand, especially within our community, as you know, diabetes is particularly prevalent. So in order to explain more about not just diabetes but particularly diabetic eye screening, which actually is a term I hadn't heard of before you'd introduced me to it, is we're going to learn all about that and what it involves and why it's important and what to expect. So without further ado, I'm going to ask my guests to introduce themselves, if that's okay. And I'll start on my left, please.
My name is Sharon Heggie. I'm the Assistant Programme Manager for the BLMK Diabetic Eye Screening Service.
Fantastic. And thank you, Sharon, for giving up your time to be with us on Inspire FM. And then finally...
Hi, my name's Courtney Riches. I am Engagement and Outreach Officer for the BLMK Diabetic Eye Screening Service.
Fantastic. You're both really welcome here in Inspire FM, and thank you again for coming down to the Dallow Centre where we record the show to talk to our listeners more about this, as I say, really important topic. So guys, you've introduced yourselves and your roles, but can you just tell us a little bit more about the organisation that people might not have heard of?
Yeah, the Diabetic Eye Screening is a very important service that we provide to make sure that the community's eyes get checked over because of the diabetic, when they've got diabetes. It's a blood condition. It's where the body doesn't use the insulin correctly. So we have a team of people we call screeners who would take photographs of the back of people's eyes. Then we have a team of graders, and what graders means is that they look at the images and they decide whether or not a person's eyes are healthy, if they have any problems. If it's a serious problem, then we can get it directed into the appropriate pathway into the eye clinic, and then the eye clinic take over and do whatever treatment that patient needs. There's every area in the country has a diabetic eye screening service, so it's not just Bedford and Luton and Milton Keynes. Okay. So if you moved to another area, you would still have your continuing diabetic eye screening.
Sure. Fantastic. Okay, that's good to hear. So it's NHS,
yes.
National NHS scheme. Yeah. Fantastic. Yeah.
Also, just to say, because I didn't know this till today, if you're
pre-diabetic,
you can get your eyes screened.
Yes.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we have a lot of patients that are coming through the door that have been to the doctors, maybe for nothing connected to them thinking they have diabetes. It might be for something totally unrelated. They have a blood test and it comes back that their blood sugar levels are slightly raised. Right. I've previously had been told I was pre-diabetic myself. Yeah. So we are still seeing a lot of people coming through being told by the GP I'm pre-diabetic. Yeah. Okay. So just to be clear then, so say if you go to the GP and they say you're pre-diabetic, do they then refer you? The GP will still refer the patient into our service. Yeah. So we will still see them. Yeah. So the only patients with diabetes we don't see are ladies with gestational diabetes, because it's only brought on with pregnancy. Right, okay, that makes sense. Okay, perfect. So as I said, the reason why we're taking time out today to talk about diabetic eye screening is because it is really important, and just doing a bit of research for today's show, and we'll come on to why it's so important. But before we talk more about diabetic eye screening, there might be some listeners out there who don't even know what diabetes is. So maybe if you could just explain a little bit about what is diabetes. Yeah. There's two types of diabetes, type 1 and type 2. Type 1 is where you're on insulin for life, and it's not reversible. Yeah. It's where your pancreas doesn't produce insulin, or it produces very little, and your body doesn't use it in the way it's meant to be used. Yeah. With type 2 diabetes, you don't necessarily have to have medication to control it. You control it through your diet. If for any reason that doesn't work, then you may be moved on to medication, which is tablets. Yep. If the tablets don't work, they could use a combination of insulin and tablets. Right. And then eventually, if even that doesn't work, a patient with type 2 diabetes can go on to insulin as well. And again, it's still the same. It's just because their pancreas is not producing insulin in the right way and the body's not using it in the right way.
Sure. Okay, that's fantastic. And then in terms of like diabetes, why is it that it's particularly more prevalent within the South Asian community that we find?
Genetics play a lot of weight
Okay.
in their cases, and also it's diet.
Yeah.
It's because there's a lot of carbs in an Asian diet,
Definitely.
and a lot of high fat content, a lot of high sugar content.
Yep.
I recently, about 5-6 years ago, went to Sri Lanka. And the guy there told me that a lot of the doctors over there were trying to introduce them to red rice as opposed to white rice, because the carbs and starches were a lot less.
Okay. I've never heard of red rice before.
No, I hadn't until I've been to Sri Lanka.
Yeah, I've heard of brown rice, but not red
no,
rice.
I didn't until I've been to Sri Lanka. But yeah, they were trying to.
Yeah.
Obviously, there was a
Big rice.
a lot of people over there had diabetes.
And
it is just purely
with the diet.
and genetics.
Absolutely. No, it's good. I mean, like you say, I think there's lots of things we can do, regardless, for various reasons around having a more balanced diet.
Having diabetes doesn't necessarily say you can't eat everything you would normally eat. It's just in moderation. So just try and control how much of it you have. Try not to have potatoes, rice, pasta every single day. Just, limit it and vary it.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and I think that's part of the misconception, isn't it? That that means you can't. It's zero. So I think again, like you say, it's just about portion sizes and things like this as well.
Definitely.
That's really helpful. So So thank you for just explaining a little bit more around diabetes. And we were fortunate quite recently. We had a local GP, Dr. Ali Khan, come on, and he was talking about diabetes and things like that. So this show leads quite nicely on from that, particularly for people who have diabetes. So just explain, if I've understood, is the diabetic eye screening is for someone who either has diabetes or is pre-diabetic. Yes. Is that right? Yeah. And they're referred by their GP for that. So they don't have to do anything themselves, do they?
No. Okay. Once the GP has referred a patient to our service, we have up to about 3 months to be able to offer them an appointment.
Yeah.
And that's the only way we know a patient is diabetic. We don't get our referrals from any other source.
Yep.
It's all through the GP.
And it has to be through the GP. Yeah. Fantastic. And then why would the GP be referring a diabetic person for diabetic eye screening?
Because it's a blood condition, and because their pancreas isn't working correctly, it can cause all sorts of issues. Not just for your eyes, it can be your kidneys, your heart, your feet. Because if a diabetic patient has a foot injury, they lose the sensations in the bottoms of their feet. So they wouldn't know they've got an injury, and that can turn very nasty.
Right.
And if it's not treated without being too dramatic, they can lose limbs. Because of it. Some people do take diabetes very lightly. They don't think it's very serious.
Yeah, that's right.
And we see lots of patients who haven't been seen by the diabetic eye screening. They suddenly turn up 3 or 4 years down the line and they've got lots of problems with their eyes, and we can't do anything about it because it's gone past the point of no return.
So is that, in your experience, is that patients who haven't turned up for their appointment to start with, rather than they haven't been referred in? So will they always be referred in?
No, because there's people out there that maybe don't go to their GP regularly who actually have diabetes and they don't realise they've got it.
Right.
So we know there's lots of people out in the community, all over the country that have type 2, especially because it's generally you find it's older people that get diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, whereas type 1's generally from younger people.
Right.
If you have family members that already have type 2 diabetes, your risk goes up a little bit.
Right.
So,
Okay. And then in terms of so you've explained with the diabetic eye screening, so the GP refers in, and that the reason why it's important. So why do you feel, because you've worked in the service for a long time, what do you think puts people off?
Oh, there could be a number of reasons. Work commitments, family commitments. Like if they're a carer for a person and they can't get time away because they don't have anybody else to look after that person, so they can attend an appointment. Again, some people, they stick their head in their sand, it's not happening to me kind of attitude, or they're just too scared. They're just too scared. They don't want to come along because they're fearful of what we might say to them and what might happen. They don't understand the process, so they're a bit scared of We've got people who have really bad phobias about their eyes. They don't like their eyes being touched. So there's lots of different reasons why.
Yeah. And Courtney, in your experience, what are you finding? Because you're working on the engagement side of things.
Yeah, and a lot of it is that if they go to an appointment, they can't drive for a period afterwards.
Oh, okay.
So their eyes are too blurry once they've had the drops put in. And that, I think that makes them think more about going to an appointment because of the time it's taking up and getting someone. And also if they get a letter and they don't understand English that well, they need someone to translate that letter for them. And there could be some language barriers in that. But it is a case of, I feel that people aren't taking it seriously enough. So it's not, that if I had diabetes, the first thing I would want protected is my eyes, because you need them. You need them for work, you need them to do everything. So you want to protect them. So my job is to try and encourage people to be serious about this. And and however we can do what we can do to help, we will try doing that. There are limitations, and always will be, to putting out a number of publicity in all different languages. But we'll do the best we can to encourage people, and raising awareness is what I do. That's what I'm there to do.
Fantastic.
Take part in this. That's why we're here. It'll be to go to events to raise awareness. And also to look at the statistics that we have to see where those patients are, to see where they live, what other, because some of these patients might have mental health issues, so they might not want to go out to have this done. And it's about how you encourage that, for them to go.
No, absolutely.
It's really, it's important. And that they got an engagement person in, like myself, because people are not attending appointments.
And there must be quite a cost to the NHS for not attending appointments, because it's
£165 per appointment.
Really? That's terrible.
I mean, just last week alone, we had 206 missed appointments.
So that's, 206 times 165 is a lot of money.
It's a lot of money to be wasted.
Exactly.
And it doesn't take much for somebody to ring up and say, look, I can't attend my appointment. They get a text message 48 hours beforehand just to remind them that they have an appointment. So we try and do everything we can to encourage people to come forward and have their appointments. And we do know there's a hardcore of people out there that we need to get to come to these appointments, and we just try everything we can. We have done drop-in clinics before, just to say you don't need an appointment time. You could just come along and we'll screen you. We've tried all that as well, and we'll continue doing that just to try and get people in.
Absolutely. And do you find the uptake from the South Asian community, are they particularly bad at coming to appointments? Generally,
yes, I can't
absolutely.
say not, because it is.
Absolutely.
Again, it could be like Courtney said, it could be the language barrier.
Absolutely. Family.
Again, times of the day. When we do the clinics, it might not be suitable if they're looking after young children as well, and they've got school runs to do. There's lots of things that could prevent them from coming.
Absolutely.
And we are trying to change that. We are So in Bedford and Luton, there's various clinics that operate around in the community centres too. So people can go to them. And in Milton Keynes, they're looking to do that sort of model that we've got. They run from their hospital. But it is, so we're addressing the venues and the choice. And then we would look at maybe addressing times and possible weekends. We do have a bus. Mobile. Mobile clinic. It goes to GP surgeries, and we park it up outside.
Oh, I think I've seen it. Sorry.
And obviously we get patients onto the mobile unit, and we can screen them there. It's not as efficient as going into a community centre, because we can see far more people in a community centre than we can on the back of the mobile unit. Space is limited, so you can't have too many people on there. But at least we're still using it, and it's still a way of us getting out in the community and seeing patients who don't want to travel all the way into Bedford or Luton, because, as we've said, they shouldn't be driving after the appointment because of their vision will be blurry. So.
Absolutely. So they need someone to take them home.
Absolutely. Or if they can obviously get a taxi or a bus, we know lots of people do that.
Okay, fantastic. So guys, as I say, the reason why we're here today is really to raise awareness on the importance of attending your diabetic eye screening appointments, and particularly if you've got friends or family that have been invited for an appointment, to assist them in making sure that they can get to and particularly back from their appointment as well. The guys here, they're putting on lots of different sessions, mobile buses, etc., really making every effort to make it as easy as possible for people to access their appointment. So, and like you said, if you can't attend your appointment, the least you can do is let you know that you can't attend that appointment. Otherwise, it's a waste of an appointment that someone else could have benefited from as well. So it's really good that we're spending a little bit of time talking specifically about this as well. Just for someone, like you say, there might be a bit of anxiousness about what to expect at an appointment. So can you just run us through what a normal appointment looks like?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So when the patient comes to the clinic, we'll call them in and we'll ask them to confirm their date of birth and their address. Obviously, we need that confirming so that we know that we are seeing the right patient. Sure. We'll do what we call a visual acuity test. Now, what that is we will check their vision, their level of vision, because that can sometimes indicate that there's a problem.
Okay.
Then we'll put some eye drops in, and while the eye drops are taking effect, we'll ask them a little bit of history if there's anything that we need to know that they've previously had wrong with their eyes. Yeah. And then they'll go and sit outside for 15, 20 minutes. Okay. They'll be brought back in and they'll sit at a camera and we'll take 4 photographs of their eyes. Yeah. And once we're happy with the photographs we've got, that's the appointment over.
Okay. Yeah.
So in total, it's roughly about half an hour.
Oh, is that all?
Yeah, it's only about half an hour.
Oh, right. I thought it'd be longer than that.
No. It's only about half an hour. Yeah.
Great, fantastic. And generally, so you've come for your diabetic eye screening, you've had how long does it take afterwards to know the results, or how does that work?
Depends on how busy we are, because obviously when you're sitting and if we see 200 patients a day, that's 800 images to check through. Yeah, yeah. So we try to get it done within 2 to 3 weeks. Okay. Yeah, sometimes it can be a little sooner, sometimes it might be a little bit longer, but no, generally it's 2 to 3 weeks.
Fantastic, that's great. And then you just touched on about like the different locations and things like that. Where can people find more information about the locations and things?
We've got a website.
Yeah.
We have a website.
Yeah, so
I'm not sure if it's written on here.
I've got it here as well.
It's the BLMK.
Yeah. So it's www.blmk-diabetic-eye-screening.nhs.uk.
Yeah.
And it's a really user-friendly website. Yeah. It looks quite new, doesn't it?
It is new.
Yeah,
yes.
it looks it. Yeah. And all the locations for Luton and other areas are on there as well. So then we just had some kind of quick-fire FAQs, really. So the first one was, do all people with diabetes need screening?
Except patients who have gestational diabetes.
Gestational diabetes. Yeah. So that's pregnant women.
That's pregnant women,
Just for anyone
that's not to say that they won't go on and actually develop full-blown diabetes.
Okay.
Generally, it will disappear once they've had the baby.
Yeah.
So if there's any pregnant ladies out there, it's really important that you let them know that, because they may have already had diabetes anyway. Yeah. So if they're already pregnant, we need to know that they're pregnant, because the hormones can cause problems with their eyes if they already have any eye problems.
Got ya. So if they're coming, they should let you know they're pregnant.
Yeah, definitely, Got ya. Because they need to be seen more often than somebody who just has their routine eye screening.
Right, with you. Got ya. That makes sense. Would I still need to go to my local optician?
Yes.
Okay.
We are not opticians.
Right,
we cannot tell a patient whether or not they need glasses. Yeah. So it is still really important that they go at least every 2 years to their opticians. Yeah. Every person who has diabetes will get a free eye test. It doesn't matter which optician you go to.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they will get a free eye test. Okay. They will just ask you that question when you book the appointment. Oh, right. And then they will enable them to have a free eye test. Okay. But yeah, it's still really important, because they will also check their peripheral vision, the outside of their eyes, because that's not something we can check.
You guys do, yeah.
They can pick up other conditions called glaucoma.
Right.
Cataracts are a big thing as well, where they can stop us from seeing the back of the eye because if the cataracts are quite dense. Right. But again, opticians can pick that up. Yeah. So there is several other eye conditions that we can't detect because they can see the whole of the eye, whereas we're limited to what we can see.
Yeah, perfect, fantastic. And what if I'm already attending a hospital eye clinic?
It depends on what you're attending the eye clinic for, because there are some eye conditions like glaucoma that are checked, but they wouldn't necessarily still check for diabetic eye conditions. So they would still need to come and have their eye screening done with us. But if anybody is not sure, they just ring us up. Our fail-safe team can check that if they're under the eye clinic, what clinic they're being seen at. Then they will be able to tell the patient, yes, you still need screening, or no, you're absolutely fine. You just have your hospital appointment.
So better not to presume, just to ring and check.
Because it complicates matters for us if a patient is under the eye clinic and they don't need to be seen. Because we have to follow certain protocols, and it can cause complications and double up on things which we don't want to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and people don't want to come more than they have to.
No.
That makes sense. The eye drops, so do they have any side effects?
They do. The only main one is that they can make your vision blurry. Doesn't happen with everybody, and how long it takes for their eyes to go back to normal is difficult to say, because again, everybody's different. So for one person it might just be an hour, another person might be 5 or 6 hours. So this is why we always say, please don't drive for at least 4 to 6 hours afterwards, just so that your eyes are clear.
And what if someone, it says I'm still, but what if someone is still experiencing discomfort after 6 hours?
Every patient will be given a leaflet, an information leaflet about the eye drops that have been given in the eye clinic. And there is bullet points on there that says what things to look out for and what to do if they're concerned, if they're having problems with their eyes. So if they're really, really concerned, they could always pop along to A&E or contact their GP.
But you give them a leaflet to tell them
it explains everything on the leaflet.
If you're still uncomfortable, then you know.
The drops we use, it is very, very rare that anybody has an allergic reaction to the drops. We're not saying it can't happen, but it's very, very rare.
Very rare.
Yeah.
That's cool. What does it mean if you get called back?
It means that we've seen something we may want to monitor. So not everybody will be seen every year. So if we see something, we might want to see them back in 6 months, 3 months. It just depends. Might not necessarily need to do anything, but we just want to monitor what we've seen, just to make sure it doesn't get any worse.
And then related to that, what should you do if you notice a problem between appointments?
Go to the optician.
To the optician?
Yeah, I would recommend go to the optician. Because, like I've said before, they're more qualified. They are optometrists, so they will see more of the eye than we can. And it's probably easier to get an appointment with an optician, because what we don't want people to do is wait for an appointment with us and then find there's a problem that could have been seen by the optician and dealt with quite quickly.
You can normally get an appointment with an optician quite quickly. That's interesting. How can I reduce the risk of getting diabetic eye disease?
Just try and control your blood sugars as best you can. It's not something we can prevent happening completely. But if you try and keep your blood sugars under control, and if you're on medication, make sure you take your medication regularly. Make sure you have your regular eye screening appointments, and making sure you have your regular optician's eye appointments. And with all of that, hopefully we'll keep any problems to an absolute minimum.
Fantastic. And then final FAQ is, if you're pregnant, what do you do?
Again, if the patient has already got diabetes before they were pregnant, they need to be checked more frequently than a patient who isn't pregnant.
So you just need to let you guys know about that. Fantastic. That's been really helpful. So again, clearly these guys know what they're doing. You've been doing it for a very long time now, haven't you? As well. So you've seen thousands of people benefit.
I hate to think how many eye drops I've put in.
You've put in a lot of eye drops. Looked after a lot of eyes. But as Courtney said, what is more important than your eyes? I mean, really, when you think about it, you only get one set of eyes, don't you? You know, so I think the fact that this service is available for free, as part of the NHS program, as part of the diabetes and looking after people who have diabetes as well, it really is incumbent on us to take advantage of these appointments. And as we say, if you can't attend for any reason, explain why you can't attend, because then that helps you guys understand what the barriers are. If they say, look, I can't attend because I ain't got no one to take me, then it might be a clinic down the road you don't know that you're setting up, or whatever it might be, or whatever. At least we know what the problems are then, so we can try and tackle them. So we're quickly running out of time, but just an opportunity, if there are any kind of final thoughts you wanted to share, really.
There is actually. It's
please.
I didn't realise how many people had diabetes within Luton and Berkshire, and we have over 750. Well, if we include Milton Keynes, it's 78,000.
Wow.
So, and that's a big number.
Yeah.
So
diabetes is on the increase.
It's on the increase.
Is it?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
We've noticed a big jump since COVID, obviously.
Oh, really? Yeah.
And we all say to people, if you've got any issues, pick up the phone and talk to us. If you're worried or concerned about anything, you don't know what's going to happen, just give us a call.
Great.
Anybody will speak to us. Any of the team will speak to them.
Great, fantastic. That's really good to hear.
There's a lot of support out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Diabetic website as well.
Yeah,
And there are things going on.
Yeah.
And obviously, within the area, you've got health festivals. And everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic. Great, guys. Thank you again for coming in and being with us here on Inspire FM. As we said, the website is www.blmkdiabeticeyescreening.nhs.uk. Really easy to use. Any free FAQs on there. And as the guys said, if you've got any questions, any concerns, just pick up the phone, have a chat to the team, and they can explain and hopefully put your mind at ease. But, the guys have come today particularly because there are so many missed appointments. And, these appointments are going to waste. And so, as I say, it's really important that if for any reason you can't attend, then you let them know that you're not attending. But make every effort to attend because you only have one set of eyes, and it's important that you look after those. So thank you, listeners, and inshallah we'll be back with a new show next week. Assalamu alaikum.